I do want to dig deeper now. South Korean authorities say they are still investigating the exact cause of this incident, but we know this has happened before and stateside as well. Last year, 10 people died in a music festival in Houston. In 2003, 21 killed during a crush at a Chicago nightclub. Joining us now, Stan Kephart, an expert witness in police and security. Stan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
With your expertise, I do want to hear, what do you make about the events in South Korea? What may have happened here?
Well, I'm very concerned. Preliminarily, I have two colleagues that have been giving me information concerning what happened. So along with what I've seen on film, I've concluded that there are some very disturbing things that need to be looked into and developed further with a complete investigation. There would appear to be, at first glance, a crowd management failure. I see no evidence of a contingency of police officers who are prepared both with equipment and by training present at this event. I see and understand that there were some 200 officers, but these are what we call line officers. And their understanding of crowds and how to defuse a large crowd that is compacted like this one was, you can see visually that you have a very unsafe condition that never should have been allowed to get to that point. Once it's at that point and a incident triggers, a triggering incident occurs that causes the crowd to move, you have to have a directed plan with properly trained and equipped people to defuse that kind of situation and get them out of there safely. That didn't occur. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned as to why there was no planned national emergency management system, which we have in the United States and are present in all countries that I'm aware of. Seoul, Korea has the same type of opportunity to train in crowd control and crowd management circumstances that we here in the States do. And I dare say that from all indications to this point, that's not in evidence.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, when large crowds do start to get out of control like this, what specifically can be done to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
It's an excellent question. First of all, we need to go before this event happened. What should have been in place? It's a responsibility of a responsible government to ensure that there are police officers who are properly trained in command and control of a circumstance such as this, and that they prepare prior to the event. They knew in advance that they expected up to 100,000 people in this location. That kind of crowd density that you can see is absolutely unacceptable. It is an unsafe condition. And what they should have done was erected a perimeter to not allow that large a number of people to come in the first instance. The second thing that should have been done is a command post should have been stood up, and both a mobile command post and a command post that is integrated and that has present in that command post law enforcement, fire service, and emergency medical services, and is participated in not just by the Seoul Police Department, but an integrated call for assistance from other agencies surrounding that to give sufficient person power to be able to get these people out of the area if something starts to occur. There are tactics that work very well to bleed the crowd out. What's called a daisy chain funnel is used to take people out of the area before we have a stampede and people are die from positional restraint asphyxia.
Positional, as you're talking about. And Stan, I do want to ask in the seconds we have left, one of the most interesting tips to come out of this that we were discussing yesterday with an expert was that if you do fall, try your hardest to stay upright and to remain calm. But if you do fall, try to lie on your left side to protect your heart and your lungs and to prevent yourself from being crushed this way. Are there any other tips that we should know about as people are returning to normal life and expect to be in crowds that someone can actually do to try to stay safe or improve their chances of survival?
Well, that advice is correct. You want to stay upright as much as possible, even hanging on to other people to do so. But once you go down, if you assume a position, it's the compaction and the pressure exerted downward on the diaphragm of the people that are in a pile, if you will, that causes them to asphyxiate. That's what they die from. And there are studies that prove that and have shown that over the last 3 decades.
I really appreciate your time and your expertise. Dan Kephart, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.